All right, so today is the 6th day of Tammuz, Tafshin Tet, and we're learning Sefer Shmuel Aleph, chapter 9, and we're going to just repeat briefly a couple of verses, so we are within the same inyan. Verse 15, and we're learning in memory of Shmuel Nota ben Chaim Gershon. His neshama ben Aliyah, his yortzeit is tonight. All right. Where are we? We are at the moment where we are changing from judges to kings. This is when God is orchestrating a meeting between Shmuel and Shaul, and arranging that that King Saul is going to become King Saul. Just as an aside, which we'll bump into soon enough a couple of times, Shmuel presided over another important change in the leadership of the Jewish people, and that is the introduction of prophecy en masse. There were a few prophets before him, but there were far and few in between, and he brought in this whole standard. That's why he's so big. After Moshe, who was the biggest prophet, he is next. He is the second to Moshe, and almost on a class of its own. And we will see it very soon. And Saul's father lost the donkeys, the atonot, and he was looking for them for 3 days. They couldn't find them. Saul, sidekick, a helper that his father sent with him, advised him to go visit Shmuel, who is an important person that everybody knew, but Saul never met, apparently, and never felt that he needs this kind of a help. He was a person that was Saul was very self-sufficient, had a lot of knowledge, and he didn't feel that he needs, so he never met him. And obviously, because of the era, they didn't have newspapers or TV, so he couldn't recognize Shmuel. There were no portraits of Shmuel, hanging in every shul. So he didn't know who Shmuel is. So Shmuel is in that city, and Saul is coming over. And so we said in 9:15, and God revealed revealed to Shmuel a day earlier, before Saul came, that says, today, at this time, I'm going to send Shaul to you. I'm going to send a person from the land of Binyamin. No name. It doesn't tell him exactly who, because this whole becoming a king is being done in total secret for now. It's going to become public later on, and it's orchestrated in such a way that when it happens publicly, everybody sees and believes that God is conducting this, that it wasn't rigged election. So that's why it was kept really undercover for the entire duration until it's made public.
It's interesting that the instructions were, I'm going to send you a man from Binyamin who will save the people from
the Philistines.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, that was the only reason that Saul was being appointed as a king?
Well, we'll get to it in a second. So what is he telling him? And you're going to anoint him. And we'll see the process of anointment, how different this particular one is versus the anointment of King David, which is going to come, that there are differences because Saul was sort of for a limited time only, he was a placeholder, and David was forever. So we'll see later on, and he's saying, well, you anoint him, Nagid is not a king, Nagid is just a governor, someone who is in charge, and for the Jewish people. And as you said, as you pointed out, he is going to redeem us, he's going to save us from the Philistines. Now what happened with the Philistines? As Shmuel started his career as a main judge, I mean he was an important person as he was growing up. But as he started his career at the age of 40, after Eli passed away, and right away defeated the Philistines to keep and kept them in check for about 10 years now. The problem is that now he's old, and time passed, and they raised their ugly head again. And if you recall, when the Jews were asking for a king, originally they were asking for a king so they can not necessarily, not necessarily for the right reasons they originally asked for, and then he gave them over the head, Shmuel gave him over the head, and they altered their request and said, we want a king that will help us fight our wars. This is the second time that they asked after he gave them over the head, after he told them what a king can do, that he can, amass fortune on their account and, take their lands and their people and make them run in front of his wagon, etc. So they mentioned that he's going to fight our wars. So that's the real reason. That's a good reason. So that's why he's mentioned here. Of course, the ultimate idea is that the king will help rule over the people by making them submissive to the will of God. So that was the ultimate reason, but that's not exactly how things turned out with Saul that much. Because Shmuel says, I saw my people, and God said to Shmuel that I saw my people, that I heard their cry for help. Okay. ושמואל ראה את שאול. So Shmuel saw Shaul. Now, he saw Shaul, and then what? Then something, what?
No, then says Hashem.
And then something very unique happened to him that happened only to another person in history, and that is Moshe. God spoke to him while he was awake, which is not something that usually God, to the prophets and the other holy people that God is communicating with, it's usually b'chalom, when in a dream, when they were not really all of their in a state of a trance, in a state of meditation, in some not normal state, not like we talk right now. But with Shmuel, that's what happened. He was just walking down the street, saw a man, and God told him, that's him, It's like he's walking with an with an earpiece. So, this is the man I told you about. This guy is going to stop with people, my people. What does it mean, stop? Atzor is in Hebrew means stop, like a stop sign is it's called atzor. What is yatzor? Means he is going to stop. That a king, one of the main functions of the king is to stop the people from doing whatever the heck they want to do, which is against the rules, and stop others from coming into the country, aka build a wall. That's what the king's supposed to do. He's supposed to put barriers, for behaviors, barriers on land, boundaries, exactly. And in Hebrew, indeed, when we call the heir to the throne, we call it Yoresh, which is inheritor. Etzer. Etzer means to stop. Yoresh Etzer. You call the heir to the throne, the prince, whatever, in England. He's an heir to the throne. Yoresh Etzer. So the whole word of ruling has to do with stopping, with creating boundaries. Okay, now, so Shaul is approaching Shmuel. Vayigash Shaul, the next verse, Vayigash Shaul at Shmuel. So Shaul move closer to Shmuel, betoch hashar, and they meet exactly inside the gate, on the doorstep of the gate. So what's the significance of that? The significance of that is that Shaul, because he was big and wide, tall and wide, he basically blocked the entrance. You couldn't just brush, past him. So he was a mountain. He was a mountain of a person. He was head and shoulders above everybody else. So he approaches Shmuel, and Shmuel knows already who he is, and says, "Hagida nali eize bet haroeh." Tell me, please, where is the house of the seer? Now, if you recall before, we said that before Shmuel, we had seers, okay, that would be able to see the future, will be able to see the nature of people, will be able to help them. And now Shmuel moved it to a different stage of prophecy. What's the difference between a seer and a prophet? A seer just sees things. Prophet rebukes people and tell them what to actually do, and try to straighten them out if they do the wrong thing. Now, a seer also seems to be someone who is for minor things. I want to know you lost the keys to your car. Okay, so that's a job for a seer, not a job for a prophet. You want to anoint a king, that's more of a prophet type of a job. So, what?
Prophet tell you the lottery numbers?
The prophet, exactly. So as a seer, maybe will tell you the first three, and the Powerball, it's the prophet. So he's asking, where is the house of the seer? So why is he using the word seer? He's using the word seer because in his mind, he's not coming to become a king, he's coming to find the donkeys. Minor task. Vayan Shmuel et Shaul. So Shmuel answers Shaul, Vayomer, Anochi harei, I am the seer. And then he started telling him something. So let's just address this, I am the seer. So Shmuel, who felt that this is a momentous occasion, and God just spoke to him and told him a day before in advance, prepare. It's not something that usually happened. It didn't happen before. So he wanted to make sure that, Shaul is having the conversation with him. So he said, I'm the seer. So that's, and obviously he asked him a question, and you answer straight. You don't play games. But there are some who say in the Gemara that he's criticized for saying, I'm the seer, It seems that because a pious person has to be extra, super duper, triple careful to run away from something that looks like, haughtiness or something that self-reliance.
I see it exactly the opposite. He's saying, I'm the seer. He didn't say I'm the Navi.
Okay, that's why some people say that it's okay. He answered right.
He didn't want to contradict him. So he said, you're looking for the roer, I'm the roer.
Right. He didn't want to miss the opportunity, he just wanted to answer the person. So that's what the pshat is. But some people say that he was criticized and he was punished for it. Where was he punished for it? Shmuel. Shmuel was punished for it when it came time to anoint David. So he sent Shmuel to the house of Ishai, to the father of David, right? And told him that over there he'll find one of the kids to be. So he comes to Ishai. So Ishai lines up the kids. Which one you want? Sort of. And he sees the older brother Eliav, and Eliav is also tall. He worked last time. We got a tall guy, so he saw a tall guy and said, you're my man. So then God told him, no. You think you see? You don't see. You just see the facade. I don't like this guy. He's a guy that has an anger management problem. I'm looking for the little guy. So he was, and it was, there is a pasuk, Hashem, Adam yireh le'enayim, v'Hashem yireh le'levav, that a person sees what they see with their eyes, but God sees inside their heart. So he was in effect, was told, you think you're seeing some, you're such a good seer, you're not seeing all that well. So that's what the Gemara is. It's a midrash actually. No, it's.
Says a duck.
It's but it's in Sifri. It's in the midrash. It's in the midrash.
What was he supposed to say?
Oh, so what was he supposed to say? He was supposed to say, that's where the house is, and by the way, I live there, or something like that, or we should suggest that he should ask someone else, or there are many ways of handling it. It wasn't like sitting on a broom and it's going to fly away if he's going to it's not. There are other ways of saying it without saying I'm the seer. It's me,
It says in the duck that he should have told them.
Go ask other people. Yeah, that's what the duck says. Right? All right. So what does he tell him? He tells him, go now. If you recall, when before Shaul arrived at the city, he bumped into a group of girls and asked them, where is the seer? Is there a seer here? And they explained to him exactly the whole story, that today there is a party, there is something special in the center of town, and the seer is going to, Shmuel is going to handle it, is going to lead it, and you better rush over there and get him before he goes up, because there's a whole shindig, and after the shindig he's going to go home, and he's going to disappear, so hurry up. So as they're meeting him right there in the center of town, and Shmuel told him, yes, come with me, go ahead of me to the bama, to the altar, to the place where we do this, the shechting, the sacrificing. V'achaltem mimi, and you're going to eat with me, hayom, today. V'shilachticha baboker, and I'm going to send you on your way, and I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell you everything that you want to ask me. So, come with me, come eat. It was an attractive thing, I guess, to Shaul, who was walking around, aimlessly for 3 days looking for donkeys. So he wasn't suspecting. And
Achaltem is plural.
Plural, because it's the kid, it's the helper. Saul is going with the helper the whole time.
Shilachticha, so he's only going to send him.
Right. Right. We will see how that plays out. But the point is that Saul was with this guy, and Saul, as we mentioned before, was the best person for the job. He was a humble person. He was a learned person. He was a really, really special man. And he never put down a person. He treated his helper like a mensch, like a good boss, not like a jerk. He was very, very, very nice to him. So the fact that Shmuel saw it and included that person, it all fit the event,
and
the occasion.
The helper gave him
The helper gave him.
that he needed.
No. I don't think there was any exchange of money. Why? Because Shmuel never took a dime from anyone. They didn't know it, but Shmuel never agreed to take. He's working for the public. He doesn't need any money. Just got, He was the son of Elkanah. Elkanah was a wealthy person. He had enough money. And Shmuel felt that it's enough for him. He doesn't need any more. And then, in order to sort of prove to Saul that he is the seer and he knows what he's talking about, he's not pulling his leg, he's told him already before Saul asked him. And the donkey is that you lost, that lost to you 3 days ago, for 3 days are lost. Don't worry about them. Why? Because they were found. And you don't need to worry about it. And then he tells him a very key sentence that picks Saul's antennas and say, something here is different now. Ulemi kol chemdat Israel, and who, don't worry about the donkeys, because who can have all of the goodies of all of the Jewish people? You, you and your household can have all of the goodies of the people. Huh? Where is that? What is that all about? He gave him a clue that he is going to be a king, that he is going to be in a position, he didn't tell him a king, but he is going to be in a position to really handle all of the treasures of the Jewish people. When he said that, Saul is a very smart guy. He doesn't say, of course, I'm so, special. He says, no, what's going on? Saul answered, I am from the tribe of Benjamin. Miktanei Shiftei Israel. We are the smallest, or from the smallest tribes. They were in fact the smallest tribe at the time, because they were almost wiped out with the story of Pilegesh Bagiva. 600 people were remaining, and that happened 100 to 200 years before that, and they didn't recover yet. They didn't have, and for a long time people didn't want to marry them, and even after that, they didn't recover. They're still small. So he said, and he's the youngest of sons, Benjamin in general, right? He was the youngest of the sons. Umishpachti, and amongst that tribe of Benjamin, my family is the youngest. I'm the youngest of all of the households of the tribe of Benjamin. And why are you telling me something like that seems that I'm going to be in charge of all of the treasures of the Jewish people? That seems to me a little bit excessive. ויקח שמואל את שאול ואת נערו. So Shmuel doesn't answer him. What he's doing is just, okay, I heard what you say. Just, okay, we exchange this back and forth here. So he took Shaul and the helper, Vayaviem lishkata, and he brought him into that special room that was built in the center of town, right around next to the altar. And in that room, they would sit and eat after they sacrificed, because it was in the public square, and they didn't want to sit and eat in the public square, so they would sacrifice in the public square, and then they would go into the special room that was set aside in order to eat the food there, the meat there, the flesh. Vayiten lahem makom b'rosh hakruim, and he set them at the head of the table. Vehema kishloshimi. So Shmuel orchestrated, because he had an advance notice, he orchestrated this whole shindig, invited 30 important people, and he set those two guys who he just met, who just walked in, from 3 days of wandering. He set him at the head of the table. And then Shmuel tells them, the cook, the butcher, the cook, the guy that is the way they did it is they brought korban shlamim, and in korban shlamim they sacrifice a small piece to God, and the rest they eat. The person who brings it eats with his friends and family. So Shmuel brought it, and he gave instructions. Originally, a day before or earlier in the day, he gave instructions to the cook how many people are going to come, who is going to be there, and he instructed him to save one portion in the side, in the back room, and not on the table. When you sit at a Shabbos table and another person shows up, or two people more shows up, okay, fine, they come join with us. There is a central plate, and so there is enough. Here, it wasn't that way. There was a special portion that was set aside in the kitchen, especially for Saul. And so now he calls the cook and say, all right, give that special portion, תנה את המנה אשר נתתי לך, give it to, אשר אמרתי לך, שים אותה עמך. So serve it to these people, the one that I told you to hide. He's saying it in order to show Saul that this whole thing is not, coincident. They expected him. He expected him. There is a special, I have a bottle with your with your name on it. That's basically where it comes from. There is a special manna sitting for you. Now, what was usually happening in a korban shlamim? There were three pieces, right? One piece to God, one piece to the Kohanim, and one piece to the owner who brought the sacrifice. The piece for the Kohanim went as follows. It was the thigh with the flesh on top of it, right? The whole pulke, so to speak. And the Kohen would put that on the hands of the owner, the person who brought the sacrifice, and they would lift it high and low and right, left, to all sides like we do with the lulav, He would lift it that was a ceremony, and then the Kohen will be able to take it and eat it. But that was applicable in the central altar in the temple. When they sacrificed in the temple was ran by Kohanim, and so that was their payback, so to speak, their participation in the sacrifice. But when we were talking about a small altar, an individual altar that was allowed to be built by individuals in the backyard or in the city square, wherever it wasn't serviced by the Kohanim. You didn't need the Kohanim over there. That whole ceremony, the Kohanim was not observed. It's not necessary. So there was only two pieces. There was a piece to God and a piece to the rest would be eaten by the owners. Now here, what did he tell him to save? He told him to save that piece that usually in the temple would be given to the Kohanim. Even though it doesn't need to be given to Kohanim, and Saul is definitely not a Kohen, but it's an important piece because we know that this is the important piece. So he told the butcher, the cook, the caterer to put it back in the back, and bring it now. Now, when the caterer comes and bring it in, he does exactly what they would do with it with the Kohen. Vayarem atabach. So he lifted it. Now some say he lifted it because Saul was very tall, so he needed to lift it. But it's because he wanted to show respect. So the way he did it and what he did it with all screams respect, like somebody important. So he takes the thigh and whatever and whatever was on it, the flesh that was on it, vayasem lifnei Shaul, and he put it rested in front of Saul. Vayomer hinea nishar sim lefanecha. He says here, this is what was left in the back, as Shmuel was instructed me. Sim lefanecha echol, put in front of you and eat. Ki lamoed shamur lach, because we saved it for this auspicious moment. Le'amor ha'am karati, because Shmuel was conducting this whole ceremony, and he said, I called all of these people, and this is what I set aside for you. So Shaul goes with the flow. Vayochal Shaul im Shmuel bayom ha'u. So he eats with Shmuel on that day. Okay, the shindig is over. Vayirdu me'abama. So they go down from the podium, from the stage, from the altar. Me'abama ha'ir. They went down to the residential quarters. Vaydaber Shaul al agag. And then he calls Saul for a conference on the roof. Why a conference on the roof? because when, they didn't have drones in those days, so they didn't have to worry that somebody will listen from above. But when you're in a house, behind the wall, somebody can hear. So it needed to be secret. What was he telling him there? The Medrash is telling us that he was teaching him the secrets of Torah, Sitrei Torah, and he was teaching him all kinds of topics that will bring him to fear God and love God and know how to conduct himself. And he did it also on the roof to sort of try to avert a disaster which will later happen. What was the disaster? The disaster was the second disaster. The first disaster is we'll talk about, but the second disaster, the one that cemented the ouster of Saul, was his missing the opportunity of killing the king of the Amalekites. And his name was Agag, Aleph Gimel Gimel. So he took him to Hagag, to, it's the Gag, the roof, which is sounding exactly the same, to really try to prop him up and prepare him to make the right decision, which he failed to do later, which he failed to make later. Now, one of the main, and this is, I think it's time to sort of discuss if Saul was so great, was so amazing, was the best person, more than David, was better for the job. How come he failed so miserably? What happened?
He became mentally ill.
What?
He became mentally ill.
That is not really the way I would put it. What happened was, he was a very humble person and not as assertive. And he treated everybody equally, and we all together, and was asking the helper what his opinion is. So that's all nice and dandy when you're looking for donkeys, But it's not really effective when you're running a country. When you're running a country, you need to put your foot down. When you're running a country, you need to assert yourself. You need a little bit of being, self-respect. Or respect for the position, which he, because of his great humility, lacked, and that was his downfall. David, on the other hand, was not taking stories from people. He asserted himself when he needed to. So later on, when he understood that what happened, just to answer you why he didn't lose his mind, when he understood what's necessary, he tried to compensate for it. That's why he was attacking David. That's why he was trying to assert himself, and we'll learn, we'll get there. But it's anyway. But the point is that he took him to the roof in order for him to gain a little bit of this feeling of like I'm the king of the world type on the roof, to try to prop him up. Vayashkimu. Now, after they spoke on the roof, they went each to bed, but they didn't really sleep. So they woke up early, or they, and he actually instructed Saul to stay on the roof, and to, it's a very inspiring place when you're looking at all the stars to, think about all kinds of holy things. So, as the sun rises, Vayike alot hashachar, Vayikra Shmuel el Shaul agaga. So Shmuel goes back to Shaul to the roof and told him, Kuma, lemor Kuma v'ashalchecha. Wake up and I'm going to send you. Now, after having this session the night before with Saul and and setting him at the head of the table and giving him, he didn't give him and the helper the special food, the special extra food, the special portion. He gave it just to Saul. So now he's talking to Saul as, you are the main course here, the main guy here. So I'm going to send you. Vayakam Shaul. So Shaul stood up. Vayetzu shnehem hu v'Shmuel achutza, and they both went together outside. And they started walking away out of the city. Hema yordim b'ktzei. So they were they got to the edge of the city, to the outskirts of town. אמר אל שמואל, ושמואל אמר אל שאול, so Shmuel told Saul, tell your helper to go faster, to pass us and to just, go take a hike, basically. So Emol Anar, so tell him, but before Saul had the opportunity to do it, the Nar, who we said before, was a smart guy who really wasn't just a regular person. He understood and he just left. Vayavo. Vayavo lefaneinu vayavo. So you tell him, and so the kid walks ahead. Va'ata amor kayom v'ashmiacha et dvar Elokim. So, and he tells Shmuel tells Saul, and you're going to stand here, and I'm going to tell you the words of God. Now, this, the rabbis are telling us, happened in the month of Nisan. And from that derives the Mishnah, the first Mishnah in Masechet Rosh Hashanah, in the tractate Rosh Hashanah, that states that the month of Nisan is the Rosh Hashanah. In the month of Nisan, Aleph Nisan is Rosh Hashanah to Kings. This is when you start counting the months, the days of the king. So it's from here because this is when the first Jewish king was anointed. Vayikach Shmuel et pach hashemesh. So Shmuel took the flask of oil. Now, which oil was it? There was the oil that Moshe put together, concocted. Once it was done once in our history, and he used that oil to sprinkle on the utensils of the temple, of the tabernacle, to make them holy, and he used that oil to sprinkle on the Aaron and his children to make them Kohanim, and it would be used for each time that the new Kohen Gadol would be needed. And also when the King David became a king. Until the time of Yoshiyahu, I think, right before the destruction of the first temple, where it was archived, it was put away with the ark, with the breastplate, so it doesn't fall to the wrong hands. It was a very special oil, Shemen HaMishcha it's called. Here, Shmuel doesn't use it. He will use it later for David, but not for Saul. And why? Because had he done it to Saul, Saul would be the king forever. And he wasn't meant to be. So he was told to just use the Shemen. It's the persimmon oil. It's also very special, very good fragrant, something special, but not the best. It was on sale that day. And so he took it, and what does he use to anoint him? He used a flask, he used a pach. Pach is basically a piece of pottery, which can break, which indicates that what will happen to the kingdom of Saul. David, on the other hand, was anointed with a different oil, and it was done with a horn, with a keren, with a horn of a ram, or a horn of some kind. The horn itself is long, to indicate that it's long-lasting. It's very strong. It doesn't easily break. And it also goes back to the prayer that Hannah prayed. Hannah said, when she thanked God, she said, Rama karni ba'Hashem, that my keren would be, high up or important in the eyes of God. So when you talk about the horn, that is an indication of something important. That's why that's what we're blowing on Rosh Hashanah, because it indicates long connection, strength of the connection. We're not using some other instrument to do it. And here, she didn't say Rama Pachi, that my flask is going to be big. Anyway, so Shmuel takes the flask of oil, vayitzok al rosho, and he pours it on his head. And there is a very, very special way of doing it. There are one way of doing it for a king, and another way of doing it for a high priest. For a king is they do it, like around like a crown, and for a high priest is more of a line, whatever. It's described in the halachic books. So he's giving him the treatment of a king. Vayishakeo, and he kisses him. Why does he kiss him? He kisses him for a few reasons. Number one, to show him warmth, to show him that God is with him, that he will help him, that he's he's now the king, soon to be. And also that is an indication that he's giving him the full treatment. When you kiss someone, it's because you really want them, you want to connect with them. So he wanted to connect with him in order to infuse in Saul some of the characteristics that Shmuel had, which is being a prophet. We will see probably next time how Saul becomes a prophet too. So that's the beginning of the process. And he told him, "Aloki meshachecha Hashem al nachalato lenagid." It's because God anointed you on his parcel of land, on his people, to be a governor. And then, I guess in 2 minutes we'll daven. So, and then he gives them a bunch of signs, which is a very long story of the signs. Why he gave him signs? I mean, why does he need to give him signs? Altogether, he already showed him enough that he knows who he is and what he's coming for, and he told him all this secret meeting on the roof. I mean, there is enough for him to know that it's for real. Why does he give him? He gave him 3 signs and told him that the signs will happen today. There are a couple of explanations of how to look at that. I guess we'll do it next time.
So the